Sedona. It is Saturday, March 9th, 2024, and this is Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks, Red Rock Country's radio magazine, heard every Saturday at this time on Mellow Mountain Radio, KAZM 106.5 FM and 780 AM. I'm your host, Stephen Hanks, and I welcome you to a radio show that discusses all aspects of life in Sedona and the Verde Valley. Today's show and all my shows until the end of May are being sponsored by two terrific real estate-related companies that service the Sedona area. Damien and Danielle's Sedona Village Real Estate Group with Coldwell Banker Realty should be your go-to real estate agents in the Sedona area because their experience and their dedication to community matter. And OmniPro Management, owned by Brady and Athena Shimmick, is Sedona's premier short-term rental company. Their slogan is, relax, we've got it. Speaking of relaxing, I was really relaxed and also very excited when I heard President Biden's State of the Union address Thursday. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in this show. And this is my fifth episode of Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks, and I'll finally get to talk about a subject that I've been passionate about pretty much my entire life. Politics, specifically Democratic politics. And I've got three very special guests to discuss as much about Arizona politics as we can fit into an hour. With me this morning in the studio are Jonathan Nez, who is running for the Democratic nomination to challenge Republican Eli Crane for the Arizona District 2 Congress seat, and two members of the board of the Democrats of the Red Rocks, President Ellen Ferreira and Holly Plug, who is also a Sedona City Council member. But before I delve into that deep political water with my guest, it's time for our regular weekly top-of-the-show segment, Stephen's Sedona Scene, when I tell you all about some exciting events or meetings happening over the next week in Sedona and the Verde Valley. The three-day 2024 Sedona Mountain Bike Festival began yesterday, but that still gives you 2 more days to experience the celebration of mountain biking at Posse Grounds Park in West Sedona. There will be an expo, festival, bike demos, shuttle rides, more than 90 gear vendors, a beer garden, great bands, food trucks, skills clinics, and a whole lot of sweet red single track. Parking is limited at the event, so the organizers strongly recommend that you ride your bike there. And bike valets will watch your bike for you all day free of charge. How can you go wrong with that? There is parking on site for a $10 fee that goes to a local bike charity. For much more information, go to SedonaMTBFestival.com. This coming Thursday, March 14th, will be a really busy event day in Sedona. First at 10 a.m., Sedona Stories at the Sedona Heritage Museum will feature Victoria Clark presenting the 1929 Women's Transcontinental Air Race. At the time, this was an historic 9-day sprint that brought together 19 pilots, including Amelia Earhart, racing from Santa Monica, California to Cleveland, Ohio. The race actually included stops in Yuma, Phoenix, and Douglas, Arizona. Sedona Stories takes place at the museum at 10 a.m. on the second Thursday of every month at 735 Jordan Road, and the program is free. Now, if you listened to the show last Saturday, or to the Apple Podcast version, you heard my guest Heather Cherie Sanders talk all about the Sedona Yoga Festival, which runs from March 14th to Sunday, March 17th at Hilton Sedona Resort at Bell Rock, 90 Ridge Trail Drive in West Sedona. This will be a consciousness evolution conference and a weekend of total energetic transformation, featuring dozens of presenters, classes, and vendors. For information on all the Sedona Yoga Festival events and how to attend, go to SedonaYogaFestival.com. And on the political front, on Friday, March 14th at 9:30 a.m., the Democrats of the Red Rocks at 15th. Oh, excuse me. I'm glad I have a guest in the studio who could correct my dates. She'll talk a little bit more in a while. But on Friday, March 15th at 9 a.m., the Democrats of the Red Rocks, affectionately called DOOR, D-O-R, are presenting a very important educational forum featuring current Yavapai County District 3 Supervisor Donna Michaels and former Jerome Mayor Nikki Check. Both are vying for the Democratic nomination for Yavapai County's District 3 Supervisor, and the candidates will discuss issues of importance to the county, and you'll learn how the supervisor position impacts lives in this area. Now, DOOR usually holds these monthly educational breakfasts at the Sedona Community Center, but they're expecting so much interest in this event. It's being held at the Sedona Film Festival's Mary D. Fisher Theater. There is a $10 fee to attend, and all are welcome. And if you can't get there in person, you can attend through the world-famous Zoom. For a Zoom link and more information, go to democratsoftheredrocks.org. And that, my friends, is a perfect segue to the topic of this show, which is Arizona Politics 2024. And before I introduce my very first special guest, I'd like to talk to all my listeners about something first. If you've listened to the first 4 episodes of Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks, you've probably learned a few things about me. That I moved to Sedona from Brooklyn, New York almost 3 years ago. That I've served as an advertising sales executive for the Sedona Film Festival program. That I'm currently the board president of the Sedona Referrals Club, and that I coach the varsity baseball team at Sedona Red Rock High School. But I'm also a patriotic progressive who has been a devoted Democrat my whole life. In fact, as my 2 guests here today will confirm, before I even moved to Sedona, I was voted onto the board of the Democrats of the Red Rocks. I'm no longer on the board, but I'm an active member because, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing more important in 2024 than making sure Democrats win the presidency, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the State House in Arizona. And I'm switching pages, so I've got dead air. Now, I don't think a radio show should ever discourage potential listeners from tuning in. But I'm going to just say this straight out to Republicans who support a pathological lying sociopath, white supremacists and misogynists like Donald Trump, and his fellow insurrectionists and Arizona MAGA extremists like Carrie Lake and Eli Crane. Unless you are willing to be convinced to support the side of democracy, don't listen to my show. Perhaps that means when I talk politics, I'll only be preaching to the converted. But I'm fine with that if it means I'll be helping energize Democrats in this area this election year and in the future. And speaking of Eli Crane, he is currently the congressman representing Arizona District 2, which covers Apache, Coconino, Gila, Navajo, and Yavapai counties in their entirety, and portions of Graham, Maricopa, Mojave, and Pinal counties. This Trump-enabling election denier boasts insurrectionist Arizona congressmen such as Andy Biggs and Paul Gosar as mentors. As a freshman in the House, Crane was one of only 8 Republicans to vote to oust Kevin McCarthy as Speaker because they were pissed off that McCarthy wanted to make a deal with President Biden last October so America wouldn't default on its debt. During the last holiday season, Crane placed a border wall Christmas display outside his congressional office on the floor of the House. Now, on the floor of the House, Crane said he wanted to be part of the uprising of an army of freedom fighters, presumably like the January 6th insurrectionists that take back the country. Crane supports banning abortion, even when the woman is a victim of rape or incest, and even supports allowing states to punish women and doctors. Crane called the leaked Supreme Court ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade a groundbreaking victory for life. And in August 2021, Eli Crane attended a Denise D'Souza event in Tucson. D'Souza was the producer of the totally discredited voter fraud film 2,000 Mules, and Crane called it inspiring. And by the way, in June 2022, the Republicans of the Red Rocks here in Sedona screened 2,000 Mules as a fundraiser and had extreme right-wing election-denying then Secretary of State candidate Mark Fincham as a guest speaker. Thank goodness Adrian Fontes won that election. I could go on and on about the toxic right-wing extremism of Eli Crane. And do you know how Eli Crane got elected to the District 2 seat in 2022, beating an incumbent Democrat, Tom O'Halloran, by 8 points? Because after the 2020 census, the supposedly nonpartisan Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission redrew O'Halloran's district, making it more Republican-leaning. I was at an IRC public meeting in Cottonwood with two of my guests here in the studio in November 2021, when it was obvious the handwriting was on the wall and this area would lose a Democratic congressional seat. What terrified me then, and continues to freak me out now, is that a total Trumper like Eli Crane could be our congressman until after the next census in 2030. Crane needs to be taken down as soon as possible, and I'm hoping one of my guests in the studio is the Democrat who can do it. Jonathan Nez, a Native American who lives in Flagstaff, was born in Tuba City, Arizona, and raised in Shanto, Arizona. At the age of 29, Nez began his career in public service as the vice president of the Shanto chapter of the Navajo Nation. Passionate about serving his community, he went on to serve on the Navajo Nation Council and the County Board of Supervisors before eventually being elected vice president of the Navajo Nation in 2015. And in 2019, he was elected president and served until 2023. As president, he led the Navajo people through the COVID-19 pandemic, secured funds to construct new healthcare facilities and homes for veterans, invested in public safety and hired new police officers, and bolstered infrastructure, improving rural roads and bringing clean water and electricity to thousands of previously unserved residents. Now he has taken the bold step to try to oust Eli Crane from Congress. Jonathan Nez, welcome to Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks.
Good morning, Stephen, and thank you for having me on the show, and good morning to all your listeners. As they say in Navajo, Ya'ate Abene, to all the listeners. And it's great to be back in Sedona. I went home to Flagstaff. We were here for an event last evening. I want to say thank you to the Democrats of the Red Rocks for a standing room only event. There was a lot of folks that were there. I'm sure some of them are listening. Thank you for being there at this event. And Holly and Ellen, thank you so much for putting that event together. And as I woke up this morning in Flagstaff, today's my son's birthday. You know, some of you met my sons yesterday, Alexander and Christopher. Alexander and Christopher were happy to be a part of the event last evening. Of course, my wife, Ophelia, she spoke to the people there. We were all inspired by the great support that we received from Sedona. We love the folks here and around Sedona for their financial contribution, as well as their prayers and of course, their support to unseat this MAGA extremist, as was mentioned by Stephen. My son's birthday's today. He's 16 years old, so I think he's listening from Flagstaff. Happy birthday, Christopher. And also Sean Nez as well. Happy birthday on the same day. I wanted to say that to them, and we appreciate the boys for their dedication, their sacrifice, right, over the years as we ran for public office for over 18 years. But it's good to be here, and thanks for having me.
Great having you. You know, I was at yesterday's fundraiser along with my other guests in the studio, obviously, because they kind of organized it. It was very impressive. It was at El Portal Hotel in Tlaquepaque, which, by the way, took me a couple of months to pronounce after I moved here, but I finally got it. And it was great meeting your wife, Ophelia, and when you said that you conjured up the spirit of Bill and Hillary Clinton when you said you're getting two for the price of one, which is a great deal because she was very impressive. I think she's going to be a big asset to your campaign.
Yes, she is. She's a strong woman. We both got our degrees, our master's degrees from Northern Arizona University. And as the first lady, well, first the second lady, then the first lady of the Navajo Nation, she has advocated for, our young people. And, as was mentioned last night, you not only get me, you also get my wife and our family. And that's what we've been supporting all along since we got into office is family and family values and how families all are part of making those decisions for themselves. And we saw a lot of elected officials last evening, and I also thank their spouses and their families, because it's not just the candidate, it's also the family who go through campaigns.
Yeah. So Congressional District 2's voting population is about 53% Republican and 46% Democratic. Now, the CD2 map includes 14 tribes in northern, eastern, and central Arizona, making up about 20% of the district's population. Yesterday at the fundraiser, you said that when you entered the race, that 8-point margin Crane won by in 2022 was almost immediately cut in half. Talk to my audience about why you got into the race and why you think you can beat Eli Crane in this election.
We moved to Flagstaff right after transitioning from public office on the Navajo Nation. And, we thought we would, retire and maybe do something different. But as we turned on the television, around September and October, we saw the chaos that was happening, call it chaos, and there were certain elected leaders that were right in the middle of this chaos. And now we know them as the 8 Republicans that have divided really the Congress and this country. And two of those are from Arizona. And one of those is our opponent, Eli Crane. And, just folks coming up to us when we were living in Flag, they're encouraging us and welcoming us back to the community of Flagstaff. And then there was a challenge, and they asked us to consider running for this position. And, at first we're like, we kind of enjoy, peace and quiet. We came from the Navajo Nation, 18 years of public service. But then every time I turned on the television, I saw all this divisiveness. And right in the midst of all that was our congressman. And, we prayed about it, and my family, we talked about it. And during that time, that July, I lost my father, 87 years old, long life, and he really encouraged me throughout my life, especially my young life. A really tough man, that guy. Tough love, and I'm sure many of us grew up with that tough love. I grew up in a Republican home, and then my father would always tell me that, Jonathan, if you have the ability to help, you help. You don't just sit on the sideline and watch things go south. And when I turned on the television back in October, I was like, is this what my dad was talking about? We have the ability to help here, to help by running for office and helping our constituency here in Congressional District 2 to get their fair share of resources and get their voices heard in Washington, D.C. And right now, we don't see that happening. And it's our opponent is just following a ideology, following the former president's thoughts, and yet there is a lot of needs in our district. And I'll use Secretary Holland's words when she ran for Congress. Congress has yet to heard a voice like mine, being a Native American. And I've lived let me put it this way. I was born in this district. Mm-hmm. I grew up in this district. I lived in this district. And I'm still here, unlike our opponent, where he doesn't even live in our district. And so, we are wanting someone that's from our area that will speak on behalf of not just the Democrats or the Republicans, but for all people. And, I think my record shows that I have done just that over the 18 plus years.
Before you announced that you were entering the race, there was a fundraiser also at El Portal a few months ago. I forgot exactly what month it was, for Ruben Gallego. And at that point, I was already, my mind was already racing about, we can't have this guy as our congressperson for another 8 years or more if the redistricting doesn't go the right way. So I went up to the congressman, hopefully to be the next senator of Arizona, and I pleadingly said, Congressman, we need to get somebody to run against Eli Crane. Who could that person be? And he said to me, well, I think it's got to be a Native American. And he was probably right, given the population of this area. Did he contact you directly to urge you to run for the seat?
Well, there are many people who came up to us to encourage us to run. Of course, Senator Kelly and Representative Gallego and many others, helped me make that decision, because as you were mentioning, I wouldn't be in the race, right? I wouldn't be in the race if I knew I wasn't going to be successful. People would give me some stats, and one of those stats was just as you said, just by entering the race, over 18 years of public service and what we did on the Navajo Nation, bringing in historic amounts of dollars for infrastructure development, they said that just by entering the race, you would cut that deficit in half, right? So we were half down just as we entered the race. But you know what? Eli Crane did the rest for himself, because all the gaffes, all the things that you listed today, and I think we're dead even now.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. What percentage of, as far as you know, what percentage of the Navajo Nation leans Republican at this point? And are they soft Republicans? Are they the kind of Republicans or conservatives that you can bring over to support you?
Well, let me just share this this event that I think gauges the excitement on the Navajo Nation. I went to a couple of communities with some support team members. We went to like Window Rock and Chinle, Arizona, and gathering signatures. I went out to gather my own signatures. I didn't ask somebody else to gather our signatures, but we did have team members out there, and we were able to go onto these communities, and people were just coming up and they were excited about the campaign. I don't know if we hold a record. I mean, I would challenge anybody out there to tell me if they were out there getting their own signatures and they got over 600 signatures in one day.
That's great.
And that's how we gauged it. And guess what? Of those folks who signed the petitions, there was folks in there that were Navajo Republicans that were saying, hey, we're going to vote for you. We don't see our congressmen in our communities. We see you all the time in our community. Even after I was out of office, they still see me. And visibility is very important. And we don't see our current congressman, other than seeing him and maybe on a rerun of a Facebook video saying that he was in Prescott with Carrie Lake and Steve Bannon, And I was like, wow, why wasn't that open to the public?
Really?
Of course, they won't open that to the public, right?
Yep.
That's very far extreme.
Well, we're going to continue our discussion with Jonathan Nez and also bring in our other guests from the Democrats of the Red Rocks. But I want to take this opportunity to talk about two of my sponsors, Damien and Danielle SEDONA Real Estate Group and OmniPro Management. Nestled in the heart of our breathtaking Sedona, husband and wife Damien Bruno and Danielle Gian have not just lived but flourished for over 20 years in the Verde Valley. As pillars of the village of Oak Creek, they've raised a family, volunteered tirelessly with the Rotary Club of Sedona Village and Sedona Village Partnership, and have been the proud organizers of the beloved annual community barbecue in the village for a decade. Their roots run deep and their commitment unwavering. Damien and Danielle aren't just your next real estate agents. They're your neighbors, your friends, and a top Sedona team ready to support you, whether you're buying or selling. With 20 years of real estate expertise and a love for our community, that's second to none. Choose Damien and Danielle Sedona Village Real Estate Group for your real estate needs. They want to make your Sedona dream a reality. So call them today because community and experience matter. Caldwell Banker Realty, 928-300-0139 or at SedonaRealestateAgents.com. Our second sponsor is OmniPro Management, which prides itself on being the premier short-term rental company in Sedona, dedicated to helping investors maximize their financial capabilities, all while being completely hands-off. With their extensive expertise and tailored property management solutions, they empower investors to capitalize on the lucrative short-term rental market in Sedona. Their comprehensive services encompass everything from property marketing and guest management to maintenance and financial reporting, ensuring seamless operations and optimal returns on investment. By leveraging their innovative strategies and industry insights, investors can unlock the full potential of their properties, generating consistent income streams and achieving long-term success in the dynamic Sedona rental market. Trust OmniPro Management to elevate your investment portfolio and achieve unparalleled financial growth. Relax, they've got it. And if you're looking to purchase in Sedona, Brady Shimmick, owner of OmniPro Management, is also a licensed loan officer with over a decade of experience in residential home loan lending. He specializes in making the complex simple and leading his clients to the right decision with certainty. So now it's a pleasure to bring in my other two guests in the studio, who I've known ever since I moved to Sedona. Ellen Ferrara.
Before you moved to Sedona.
Actually, before Holly just corrected me. Before I moved to Sedona, this is what happens when you're planning to move someplace and you go on the web and find out what democratic activities are happening in your new town, and you sign up, right? And it was great. It's been a great experience working with DOOR. Ellen Ferrara has been a political activist since January of 2017, the time of the first Women's March. And boy, do we remember that, right? Right after the Trump inauguration. She's been going strong ever since. She was the leader of an indivisible group here in Sedona called After the March Indivisible and became president of the Democrats of the Red Rocks in January of 2023. And as a former member of the board and current member, I can attest to the fantastic job she is doing in that role. Holly Plug is not only a board member of the Democrats of the Red Rocks, she is presently serving as vice mayor of the city of Sedona. City Council of Sedona. She and her husband Bert have lived in Sedona since 2013, having first visited as a tourist in the winter of 1993. Holly spent 5 years serving on the city's budget work group and on its fiscal sustainability work group, developing financial solutions for large-scale infrastructure projects. She is the past president of the Sedona Arts Center and past president of the Rotary Club of Sedona, and former board member of the Sedona Women. You had as many jobs as I have now. She has served on a number of local nonprofit boards dedicated to public policy issues in the areas of education, justice, and community building. And if that wasn't enough, Holly is the recipient of the 2018 Spirit of Sedona Volunteer of the Year Award. So, ladies, tell us about DOOR and what it does for any of our listeners who don't know much about it locally. And, I have a lot of friends back in New York who are very devoted to Democratic politics, and you never know if they'll write a check for DOOR or Jonathan Nez. So tell us a little bit about what DOOR's up to.
Sure. Democrats of the Red Rocks, we call it DOOR, is actually a door for people to enter political activism.
Very nice.
When people feel like they don't want to sit on the sidelines, just like Jonathan was saying, and they do want to get involved and have a part in electioneering, this is a place that they can go, and we will help them find a place that they can feel comfortable doing whatever kind of volunteer work they want to. So if they bake, or if they like to knock doors or make phone calls or do office work or administrative work, there's a position for everybody in Democrats of the Red Rocks. Our operation is completely volunteer, and we are proud to say we have an office that is at 105 Roadrunner Drive in West Sedona, right near City Hall. And we're open right now, Thursday and Friday and Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 3. That office right now is serving as a hub for people who are picking up and dropping off and notarizing petitions to get the abortion rights onto the ballot in November. We are strongly hoping that that will be the case and that abortion rights will be voted on by the people of Arizona, because we feel like if it is up on the ballot, it will win, and then it will be enshrined in the Arizona Constitution.
Awesome.
Our mission is to elect Democrats by increasing voter turnout, promoting Democratic Party principles, and educating the community. So in that regard, in educating the community, we have monthly educational breakfasts, usually at the community center.
Like the one on the 15th at the Sedona Film Festival.
The one on the 15th, yes, will not be at the community center, as you said,
right,
but at the Mary Fisher Theater. And that will feature Supervisor Donna Michaels and her opponent for the Democratic nomination for that position, Nikki Chick. So we're a very active organization. We've got over 400 members. Some are individuals, some are families, and we're a pretty close-knit community. We see each other at social gatherings, and it's really a pleasure to be part of Democrats of the Red Rocks and to serve in that capacity as president.
And, well, since you mentioned that, I'm going to ask you a personal question live on the air.
Uh-oh.
So I remember as a member of the board of DOOR when we were looking to find a new president, because our last great president, Kathy Rutherford, was leaving the position. And I know that when your name came up and I talked to you about it, there was a certain amount of trepidation that you had and not sure whether it was a job you wanted. So now that you've been in it for a while and doing a great job, by the way, how do you feel about the whole experience and what you're doing?
I'm enjoying it. I feel like I am where I should be right now at this point in my life. At this point, what's happening in the country is so horrific to me in so many ways that I could not possibly not be involved. And I'm happy that I am where I am. It's a great organization with a lot of motivated, active volunteers and a beautiful community. Just about all of my friends in Sedona are part of Democrats of the Red Rocks, or, the two indivisible groups that we have here in town. They're all doing the same kind of work to keep democracy, to keep women's rights, all the democratic policy principles that we believe so strongly in. And we work really day and night. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
To do this.
It's not a passive.
It's a full-time job. My reluctance was because I was afraid it might be such a full-time job, and that's turned out to be the case. But
Holly didn't talk
okay.
you out of it?
No, as a matter of fact, just the opposite.
So
I took her for a walk.
Yeah.
Convinced her to do it.
Did you really?
Yes.
Where exactly did you walk?
Behind my house.
I know, right down the street here. Right down the street here. I lived in the Rimstone area, and Holly we're behind the medical center.
So Holly, let's bring you into this. So 2 questions. One, I'll put you on the spot. How do you think Ellen's doing, since she's not objective? And on a more serious note, like, what do you feel? Ellen outlined a bunch of things that DOOR has in the works and doing, but what do you feel are the real hardcore priorities in an election year, not only for DOOR but for Democrats in general? And talk a little, and you can talk a little bit about your city council role as well.
Sure. Well, I knew Ellen was the right person for the job, and she turned out exactly that.
Yep.
Now, we negotiated with her that she would only have to serve 1 year of what had been a 2-year term. And guess what? She's in her 2nd year.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is she really doing a great job, but she is happy doing this job.
So is she going to? She and Joe Biden going to be reelected the same year?
I'm not sure she's up for reelection. She's one more. She gave 1 more year. So.
Okay.
But having said that, Kathy Rutherford, our former president, was spectacular as well. And she had a different skill set than Ellen, and they were both right in the job at the time that they performed it. So we're very, very fortunate. And we even have a vice president and other members of the board who are interested in the presidency. And so I think we're developing a really good bench, which we did not have before.
Right. This is not a passive membership. I mean, what impresses me about the members of DOOR is how, the percentage of people that are Democrats who are members in the whole community of Sedona, given the population, is a pretty good percentage, and they're active members. They're really passionate, and they come through when you need them.
You're absolutely right. And I can remember when I first moved here in 2013, I was having a meal at a restaurant, Judy's Restaurant, and I saw this sign that said Democrats of the Red Rocks, who at the time had rented an office in that same complex. Mm-hmm. And I was completely flabbergasted that there were any Democrats at all. Not knowing too much about, the Sedona's political leanings, right. But knowing that I lived in the state of Arizona. You kind of
lump Sedona into all of Arizona, right?
I walked in there and I said, there's Democrats here in this community. Sign me up. And at that point, think about that, was 10, 11 years ago. There was a part-time office that existed only for the election period. Mm-hmm. And when that period was over, the office would close. And that happened for several years, and it's only been in the last 5 years or so, I think, that we've had a full-time office. Mm. And been in a position, really have grown the base, have enough funding, because we're very, I don't know what right word, we have a lot of money now, because our people are really generous. And we are able to do all the things that we want to do. Money is not a deficit for us. It used to be, but it no longer is.
Yeah.
So if we want to advertise, we have the funds to do that. Now, we don't give directly to candidates. We support candidates, but we don't fund candidate campaigns.
Well, you run events like yesterday, which raised a nice chunk of change for our guest in the studio who's running for the Congress.
And what's happened now is that word is getting out. And so we're getting calls from people all over the state who want to come up here, who don't live anywhere close to this area, but know that we have the ability to raise money here. And they've asked us to support them. And to some degree, we are doing that. Mm-hmm.
We had Congressman Greg Stanton came here for our annual meeting in January.
Yeah. That was great, and Jonathan was at that meeting. Mm-hmm. You know, so let's bring Jonathan back into this conversation, and I give you and Holly the floor to ask him whatever questions you might have that you weren't able to to ask at the fundraiser yesterday? Because I'm sure you do.
I guess my question is more geared toward campaign tactics. Do you have people in various parts of the district that are working? What kind of a staff do you have? What kind of an organization? What's the field structure to win this thing?
Well, thank you for that question, Ellen. And as you all know, and our listeners know, this is one of the largest districts in the country. Over 58,000 square miles, over half the size of the state of Arizona, very rural. And of course, we're going to have, a lot of support, excuse me, a lot of support in various areas, like the White Mountain areas, that's in our district, all the way down to the areas where the copper mines are in Globe, as far as northern Casa Grande, the Okchin Indian Community City of Maricopa, Coolidge, Florence, that whole area. Then you got Prescott Valley, northern Arizona, Flagstaff, Sedona. We're going to be in Wickenburg tomorrow. Wickenburg is quite a ways, so you can just see the vastness of this district. And so there are volunteers, as I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of excitement. We have the Northeastern Arizona Dems, excuse me, and there are other organizations that are really interested in this race, especially they knowing that out of, as we all know, 22 tribes in Arizona, and 14 of those tribes are in this district alone. And so,
by design, put all the native tribes in one district.
Well, communities of interest, right?
Yeah.
And, tomorrow, or I'm sorry, this evening, we're going to be in Gila County for a Democratic event, first annual event to honor Ruth Bader Ginsburg in Payson, or at the Tonto Apache Tribal Casino. And we'll be at the Ironworkers competition too this afternoon in Phoenix. And many of those members that are in the union, carpenters, ironworkers, plumbers, those types of unions, many of them, a large percentage, are Native American. And so let me go back to, I guess, our base is the Native American communities. A lot of excitement. And so there's going to be much get out to the vote campaign. As you recall, 4 years ago, Native American communities came out in large numbers to help turn the state from red to blue. And so there is a lot excitement with our candidacy. We just recently got an endorsement from the San Carlos Apache tribe. Some of the tribes are also donating to our campaign. And so within those communities, in those tribal governments, they have their own Get Out the Vote campaign. Now, just yesterday I heard, since the state of Arizona moved their primary election date, the Navajo Nation Council approved the same to do it, because we used to have tribal elections and county, state, and federal elections on 2 different days. And back then, I was in office then, we saw the turnout rate was a lot different, because tribal elections had over 50% turnout. But when it came to county and state and federal elections, it was a very small turnout. What we saw that, and what we did when we were in office, was we put those two together on the same day. And that increased the turnout for the county, state, and federal elections.
Great.
And so back to your question, Alan, I think there is many volunteers. I know James Gravitt, our campaign manager, has been getting much emails and texts from people who want to volunteer. So there is a network of folks that are going to be helping. And our focus right now is signing petitions. JonathanNez.com. If you go to that website, you can donate. You can also sign our petitions, and also allows you to sign other people's petitions. And then also, third is to register to vote. And so that's kind of our focus right now throughout the district. Getting the petitions. We have probably twice the amount of signatures to get on the ballot. And thanks to Keith and others. And then we also want to make sure that there is an opportunity for people to register to vote. And I think that excitement is going to not only help our campaign, help Ruben's campaign, of course, and help the U.S. presidential races as well.
You know, one of the things that you said at the fundraiser yesterday that kind of disturbed me as much as I felt how dedicated you were is when you said that you were on the phone fundraising for 8 hours sometimes a day. That's one of the reasons we need to get you in Congress so the Democrats can flip that House and start doing some things to change campaign finance laws. Like one of the major, there are a zillion priorities for the Democrats to do if they take over, but that would be one of them. How are you balancing, the time that you have to spend raising funds, but also being able to focus on the issues that you need to talk to people about?
Well, it's quite interesting you mentioned that. There are 3 competitive congressional races here in Arizona. We believe that's 1, 2, and 6. Mm-hmm. And just imagine 3 seats is what is needed to flip from Republican to Democrat to take control of the U.S. House of Representatives in D.C. And it all could come from Arizona. If we can all just push back on this attack on democracy. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent. There's an attack on democracy. And we need to also recognize that our future is at stake. And what I grew up with in Native American, and I'm sure you've all heard this before, is we are advocating on 7 generations and 7 generations and beyond. Mm-hmm. And we look not just 2 years or winning the next election, but we also have to think, and our listeners out there, we have to think not just about this election, the next election, but our children and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, 7 generations beyond, and how democracy is going to look if we continue to have right-wing extremists take control of our government. Let's take our government back. And I'm talking to all parties today on the radio. Mm-hmm. Let's take our government back and make sure that we have a future that will benefit all 5-finger beings. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what nationality or race, religion we are. We have to fight for what is right for this country.
Yep. Holly, do you have any questions?
Well, a 58,000 square mile district is hard to get around in. It takes a lot of gas.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, gosh.
And a lot of throat lozenges.
And gas takes money. Even though I drive an electric car, I will say, so I don't use gas anymore. But gas
you
takes a lot of money.
technology dropper, you.
So
matter of fact, Holly, I don't think we have any car chargers on the Navajo Nation or tribal communities, so we might get stuck there. But we will get those car chargers up there.
Yep.
But my point really is that these races have become so expensive.
Yeah.
And to be credible, you have to, and especially with the size of our district, you're in the Phoenix media market. So you're competing with the prices of advertising in that market.
In a presidential election.
Exactly. So let's talk about fundraising for a minute, because it's not only at every level people need to give what they can give, whether that's their feet on the street, mm-hmm. or that's opening up their pocketbook. Mm-hmm. And there's opportunities. When I ran a few years ago for office, people gave me $5 a month in an ongoing donation, which adds up after a while.
Absolutely.
So whether it's $5 or $500, everybody can take part in this race and help to support mm-hmm. our candidates.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And The other way we're gauging the excitement for our campaign is those $1 donations, $5 donations, especially coming from, tribal communities, and some are not able to give as much, but that $1, that $5, that $10 does add up. And since this is such a rural district, we also have to go statewide in asking for donations as well, and it's helping and it's adding up. And again, I know that Washington D.C. looks at our candidacy by how much dollars we can fundraise.
Yeah.
But I wish they could come down here and see the excitement in these communities, because there's a lot of excitement, and these are voters. But again, you hit you said it spot on, Holly, that we have to compete with the Phoenix media market during a U.S. presidential election, and so there's going to be a need for a lot more dollars so that we can get our message out to the entire district. And so we are, and thanks to Sedona and surrounding communities, we are well on our way to get the message out to the southern part of our district. Of course, on the northern side, I think many people know who I am, especially in the tribal communities.
But we need to amplify our own giving. We all have friends that live in other states and other parts of the country, and let them know what a critical race this is, because their hearts are in the same place ours are, but they may never have heard of Jonathan Nez or CD2 in Arizona.
Exactly.
We have to amplify and make sure that our Facebook friends and other people, far and wide, know what this race is about and how critical it is, and how it is indeed considered a flippable district. Mm-hmm. But we need money to do that.
Yeah. How important do you maybe important's not the right word. What factor do you think your race will be impacted by the energy for Ruben Gallego's Senate race? Like, how will your position be affected down ballot from him and from President Biden? Do you think it has any factor at all, or is it a completely different dynamic?
Well, Stephen, we are focusing on this race. That is our focus on Congressional District 2. And I think just our race alone will benefit Ruben.
Right.
Will benefit U.S.
The other
President.
way around.
Yeah. And so, I think, and I appreciate the hard work that former Congressman Tom O'Halloran had done for many years. And, of course, just right alongside him was Pat, his wife, and the dedication and the sacrifice that they both did for this district. And, of course, the gerrymandering just threw it all off.
Right.
And I was saddened to see that loss. But I truly believe, again, with what Tom has done, what this administration has done, bringing historic dollars of infrastructure into rural communities throughout the country, in this state, in our district, those dollars are helping. And I always say, I bring up Navajo Nation because that was my constituency when I was elected. Of course, this is about all people in Congressional District 2 now. But I think that same plan of bringing infrastructure dollars into rural tribal communities, and with the help of Tom and many others, the senators as well, and the administration, we were able to get water and electricity to many of our people. 30 to 40%. People don't recognize that 30 to 40% of our Navajo people don't have running water. But because of that bipartisan infrastructure law, we were able to expand water and electricity, broadband telecommunication. Broadband telecommunication infrastructure is needed, not just on the Navajo Nation or tribal communities. It's everywhere in rural Arizona. And, of course, you also have affordable health care. I think we all know the talking points for the Democratic Party. But I will always say we got to push it forward. It's not just about the Democrats. It's also about everyone, the five-finger beings in our district. Expansion of elder care is important to us. Getting child care facilities in rural communities. And of course, as a Native American, we pride ourselves on taking care of Mother Earth. Just imagine utilizing that type of knowledge to better take care of Mother Earth. And of course, you have over 500 uranium mines here in the northern part of Arizona, and we need to clean those up and take better care of our forests as well. You know, those are dollars that should be brought back by congressional leaders. Mm-hmm. But to this day, we don't get that. And we pay taxes. We all pay taxes. And we should have some of those dollars returned into our district. But right now, our congressman right now doesn't believe in any type of dollars coming back into our district.
You know, you just kind of answered the question I was going to ask you next, which was what your priorities would be when you become a U.S. congressman, because it's not going to be if. It's going to be when. And I've got to tell you, on behalf of all the Democrats in the area that I know, I'm sure I speak for Ellen and Holly, we are so appreciative and thankful that you got into this race, because there was a possibility that he could have run unopposed, and that was not acceptable. So I'm really pleased that you're in, and I wish you the best of luck in the race. We're going to work our butts off for you to win this election, and I really thank you for appearing on the show today.
Well, thank you, Stephen, for having me on the show, and great friends like Holly and Ellen here in Sedona, and we're making great friends all across the district, and they believe that we are the campaign that's going to be able to speak on behalf of everyone, and not just far right or far left, but right to the issues that are important to all of us in Congressional District 2.
Can you tell people where to donate?
Okay, that's jonathannez.com. That's JONATHANNEZ.com. You can donate there. You can also sign our petitions there. You can also register to vote there. And, of course, it tells all about our campaign.
Great. Well, you heard it, people. Empty those checkbooks for Jonathan Nez. That's all the time we have for our show today. I want to thank our guests, Democratic Arizona congressional candidate Jonathan Nez, Ellen Ferrer, and Holly Plug of the Democrats of the Red Rocks. Special thanks to my two sponsors, Damien and Danielle, Sedona Real Estate Group, because community and experience matter, and Omni Pro Management, Sedona's premier short-term rental company. Relax, they've got it. Thanks as always to Ryan Thompson, my producer in the booth. By the way, tell your friends who couldn't hear the show today they can listen to a podcast version anytime on Apple Podcasts. And you can email me with comments and questions to Stephen@mellowmountainradio.com. Please tune in next week when my guest will be Emerson Theater Collaborative President and Producer Camilla Ross, screenwriter and director Dev Ross, not related, and actor, writer, director Mindy Mendelsohn. These three extremely talented Sedona residents will be telling us all about their creative collaboration on the upcoming production of the Lisa Cron play 2.5-Minute Ride, which will be performed at Brady Hall at the Verde Valley School for 3 performances on March 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Listen to us on the podcast. Thanks for listening, everyone.
On the road to Sedona,